Your daily subreddits. Subscribe for daily top posts from your favorite subreddits. Now, the top daily posts from the subreddit Change My View. Post 1. CMV. Reddit advertisers should not be allowed to turn comments off. I understand that Reddit is a business and need to pay the bills. Having advertisers promote their products and services on Reddit is likely a necessary evil. Those servers don't run themselves. That being said, comments make Reddit great. Hearing the opinions, anecdotes and notions of others is why Reddit is the way it is. I often have questions about the product that could be answered by the company or other Redditors. Before you all jump down my throat, I get it. People on the internet can be quite disingenuous or hyperbolic. And on another site I could understand that. But that's just kinda what you get on Reddit. Also, yeah, money. I know. Post 2. CMV. It is acceptable to address a group of mixed or single-gendered people as you guys without being corrected. I don't see anything wrong with saying you guys when addressing a group of mixed or single-gendered individuals, regardless of the gender of the person saying it. When I say acceptable, I mean these words should be accepted in colloquial speech without being corrected or labeled as non-inclusive language in a professional setting. This stems from an incident I had to deal with at work recently. One of the reps on my team, female, kicked off an internal call with two interns from a different team, both also female, saying, "Hey guys," which wasn't acceptable for the two interns as they abruptly left the call 2 minutes later. The two interns then went to our CEO and filed a complaint that the representative on my team had used non-inclusive language and that they would not return for full-time work if this wasn't addressed. They initially tried to argue it was hate speech, until HR corrected them on the definition of hate speech and then suggested it met the criteria of non-inclusive speech. As a result, the past 2 weeks her and I have spent 8 hours per week in diversity training with an inclusion coach, virtually, in addition to her and I needing to meet with our head of HR one-to-one to talk about milestone achievements. Our head of HR has subtly reminded me that my inclusive EQ has been reduced based on my race and gender, and lack of reminding my team to be mindful. The representative on my team who used "you guys" is absolutely mortified, but also angry as she is a female. Both interns were female, and to her this was an informal way of starting a discussion. I fully agree and have had her back the whole time. We work in Silicon Valley tech sales where people over-rotate on these types of things, but never thought it would push my best representative out of the company. Aside from that anecdote, the definition of non-inclusive language is any language that treats people unfairly, insults, or excludes a person or group of persons. I don't believe "you guys" fits this definition given the situation and context. And also don't believe it should ever be applied situationally to any person based on their gender. Post 3. CMV. The overwhelming majority of police in the US are under-trained and over-equipped. A friend of mine has a small-time training company. Nothing crazy. Just a way to exchange knowledge with others and make some cash on the side. When he started to get more students per class, he asked if I'd be willing to help as a part-time instructor. I agreed. Now since the company started, most of the students have been civilians that are connected to our friend groups in some way, or guys that served with him in the military. But over the past few years, a lot of cops have been showing up. No department contracts or anything. Just off-duty guys signing up for private classes. And they suck. So far we've only had 2 negligent discharges in any class. And they both came from cops. We've had to pause the class on multiple occasions for safety violations. Most of the time when it happens, it's a cop flagging people, walking past the firing line on a hot range, general unsafe practices, etc. And they can't shoot worth a damn. My shots are low and to the left. I think my sights are off. No. You just don't know how to properly pull a trigger yet. I don't care if you just had the sights installed. I'm looking at them. And they're fine. Then I have to take his gun and prove to him that his sights are on by shooting a group while he's watching. And the worst ones are the ones that try to use their profession as a shield. I've been a cop for 12 years. I know what I'm doing. Evidently not chuckle nuts. Because you just sent a round into the concrete and everyone just caught some frag. Clear your gun and get off the fucking line. I just watched a video on here of a cop struggling to reholster his gun in a crowded diner. Rather than looking down to see why his gun won't go into the holster, he just keeps pushing the gun. That's a common way that people shoot themselves. And to make matters worse, he didn't put the retention hood back on his gun once it was in the holster. And don't even get me started on the advanced classes that involve vehicle work or using the shoot house. We handpick students that we deem safe enough to work around vehicles or the shoot house. No more than 10 of them have been cops. So far, the only well-trained cops we've come across were 2 SWAT guys out of Houston, a recently retired cop from Los Angeles PD, and some guys from Oklahoma Highway Patrol. I'm convinced that 70 to 80% of cops, especially outside of major metropolitan cities, are undertrained and have access to equipment that they aren't ready to use. Post 4. CMV. No graphic sex scene has ever contributed to a movie's storyline. I understand insinuating the sex. But what's the point of making it last longer than 3 seconds? Perfect example of a sex scene that was necessary but wasn't graphic is the movie The Other Guys. Towards the end, Will Ferrell and Eva Mendes characters have sex because they may not see each other. The next day, shows them kiss then lay down. Then on to the next scene. What more did I need to see? I understood right then. They're gonna have sex because, quote, I didn't need see her boobs or fake orgasms or sweaty bodies to realize they're having sex. Graphic sex scenes are unnecessary. Edit. Thanks for all the non-judgmental comments. A lot of good points were made. Maybe changed my mind? I'd say I am at least neutral now. But I still stand by graphic sex scenes being unnecessary lol. Post 5. CMV. Kids that behave should be rewarded more than kids that misbehave. In middle school and even in high school, there were always times where the students that were generally the rowdy or misbehaving type were rewarded for times when they would be on good behavior for a while. Often it would be candy or free homework passes. But it always bothered me because the students that never acted up and were always super polite and whatnot were never rewarded for their consistent good behavior. I don't think the issue lies in the fact that the misbehaving kids would get rewarded. But I remember often being aggravated because I would see other students getting rewarded while I wouldn't get anything for having consistently good behavior. I understand this gives an incentive for the rowdy to become more behaved. But I think it just leaves out and frustrates the kids who never act up. At the core, I think we need a better system for good behavior in middle and high school where the polite and respectful are rewarded just as much or more than the misbehaving who have a day of good behavior. Edit. Thank you all for the contributions. Definitely have left with a changed view on things. Post 6. CMV. People buy designer to flex, not because they actually like it. I'm referring to poor, middle class here. Rich people buying designer would be like a poor person buying Walmart clothes. If someone actually liked the clothes, they can just buy the replica for 1/10 the price, and if you get a quality replica it will be indistinguishable. I often hear the rebuttal for this being, but buying real makes me feel good. I don't understand why someone would feel good buying something 20x overvalued. I feel good when I buy things that are a good bang for my buck. Not the other way around. Also, these same people only wear designer when they go out. Not at home. Why not wear it at home if you genuinely like it? Post 7. CMV. There was no single person who had more power to prevent Roe v. Wade from being overturned than Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'll preface this with saying I think RBG was a brilliant legal mind who broke barriers and inspired many in the legal field. This is not to discount her record of impeccable service to the country. But I can no longer think of her or see a notorious RBG tote bag without seeing the image of someone I feel bears more responsibility than any single person in the pro-choice community for Roe v. Wade's downfall. My argument is, had everything else held equal on history, Republicans winning the Senate in 2014, McConnell blocking Garland's nomination, Trump's presidency and appointments, and Biden's subsequent election, Roe v. Wade would likely not have been overturned had RBG decided to retire by 2014. Reason being is it would be a 5-4 conservative court today, with Roberts as the swing vote. In the leaked draft, Roberts is reportedly dissenting. Roberts is conservative, but he also cares about the public image and legitimacy of the court, and has drawn lines when the legal thinking of the cases seen in the court drifted rightward. He famously voted to uphold the individual mandate in Obamacare during an election year. I could see him taking a middle ground that guts aspects of Roe, but not overturning it in its entirety. Up until January 2015, Democrats had both the Senate and the presidency. The voting threshold at the time was still 60 votes for SCOTUS nominees. But that was and always has been an arbitrary number. Majority Leader Reid could have scrapped it with the nuclear option, and lowered the threshold to a simple majority as McConnell did in 2017. McConnell would not have been able to block a nomination from Obama in 2014 like he did with Garland in 2016. He didn't have the Senate yet. In other words, had RBG, then 81 at the time, decided to retire in 2014 or earlier, she would have been replaced with an ideological equivalent who would have ruled no differently than her on any case of consequence in the years since. But her refusal to retire at an opportune time was devastating to Roe's survival. Do I feel McConnell, Trump, Alito, Kavanaugh, Thomas, Gorsuch and Barrett are more responsible in the sense that they're actually proactively trying to overturn Roe, voting against it? Sure. But that was always the case. We can't control what they do. Trump campaigned absolutely explicitly on appointing judges that will overturn Roe, and the ones he appointed prior to nominating Barrett were replacing retiring conservatives. So it did not tip the balance of the court in any meaningful way. Do I fault voters on the left who showed up to vote in 2008 and 2012 but couldn't be bothered in 2016, or voted third party? Or Hillary Clinton for managing to lose to Donald Trump, who in my view was the most heinously unqualified individual ever nominated for that office? Sure. But to cast blame on them is putting the onus on tens of thousands of people who would have had to do something differently to prevent that. The election result could have been the same and RBG would have still been able to make a difference by retiring in 2014. To CMV. Convince me that there was some factor or person with more unilateral power than RBG to sway the result, and would have realistically done so. Or that even if she had retired, the Dobbs case would have the same result. That's it for this time. Subscribe for more daily top posts from your favorite subreddits. Have a great day.